Tony Perkins' surprisingly apt Kim Davis analogy. Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, recently made an interesting analogy comparing controversial Rowan County, Kentucky clerk Kim Davis to freedom-seeking Puritans of colonial times. Perkins' intended point was that, like the Puritans, Davis has an expectation of religious freedom in denying gay couples marriage licenses in Rowan County. However, his analogy breaks down when one considers that the Puritans and other religious groups, which escaped religious persecution to come to a land with no established religion, nevertheless settled in communities where they established their own inflexible religious orthodoxies. In fact, there are vestiges of religious monocultures that survive to this day around the United States, such as the predominantly Mormon state of Utah, or the broad swath of the Southeast known as the Bible Belt. Kim Davis continues to have support of voters who elected her county clerk, succeeding her mother, who held the office for a number of years. After refusing to issue marriage licenses to gay couples, Davis has been sent to jail on September 3rd, and was only released after she promised not to stand in the way of her deputy clerks issuing such licenses. Many have asked why Davis can't simply be fired, since the majority of legal scholars and even the majority of presidential candidates have spoken out on the need for government officials to follow the law whether they agree with it or not. The catch is that as an elected official, her allegiance is to the voters, and many of the voters in the county have called for the resignation of her deputy clerks, who have been continuing to issue marriage licenses to any couples who legally applied. As one pundit put it recently, the government officials have the right to hold their own religious beliefs, but they don't have the right to impose those beliefs on the general public. We might add that such is the case even if the majority of the general public also opposes the law. So far, Ms. Davis has been holding on to her $80,000 a year county job, but we can hope that the law of the land, as interpreted by the Supreme Court on June 26th, will eventually prevail. While the Davis case has gained the greatest notoriety, there are similar cases around the country where gay marriage continues to be unpopular with local majorities, and gay couples continue to be turned away. France's far-right National Front targets Muslim vote. Politics and religion sometimes make strange bedfellows. In a fashion similar to the U.S. Republican Party going after the Latino vote, the far-right National Front of France has decided that it isn't a waste of time to pursue the votes of Muslim immigrants who they have occasionally compared to Nazi occupation forces during World War II. The FN, as it is generally referred to, opposes all immigration, but in particular that which doesn't fit its preferred cultural values. At stake is runner-up status behind the French Republican Party of Nicolas Sarkozy, who are certain to win the majority of the vote in the upcoming elections. However, the FN only trails the Socialist Party by a slim margin, and picking up a bit of the Muslim vote in suburban areas where there is a certain degree of support for protectionist trade policies is a possible stratagem. They will craft their message to be that they are not against Muslims who have already settled, just against those who have yet to arrive. They don't need to capture the Muslim vote, just enough of it to surpass the socialists so to be in a better bargaining position in the regional assembly where post-election coalitions form. Sunni-Shiite Confrontations. While an overall solution to the problems in Syria seems to escape the Western powers, one thing they do agree on is that the continued prolonged struggles will only further inundate their countries with refugees they are not prepared to deal with on an ongoing basis. French President Francois Hollande has called on Iran, Russia, and the West to at least come together in a plan for the stabilization of the region. He echoed remarks by Germany's Angela Merkel at the European Parliament in Strasbourg by stating, "If we let the recent religious confrontations between Shiite and Sunnis get worse, then don't think that we won't be affected. It will be a total war, a war that will also affect our territories, and we must act." He also remarked that the eventual solution must include deposing the current Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, a notion that isn't likely to sit well with the Russian government as well as Iran. The devil is in the details.